Welcome back to Matchnik Garage. Today is the day we start on the rear suspension. We get that triangulated 4-link in there. And we start getting that Ford 9-inch mocked up under the rear end of this 55 Chevy pickup. I did a little bit of work, off camera, getting the bed floor out. And I'll bring you in here and show you where we're at. Well, there's not much left in here. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but there was a big steel plate in this area. It did have some more cross members. I've got those elsewhere. But it still had the wooden floor underneath the steel plate, and it did a number on these box sides. You can see right along the edge, there's the channel to get the wooden floor under it on both sides, and the wood just stayed so damp it just rotted those away. Not a huge deal because we can get those and we'll just replace them. Got the big steel plate over there against the wall. Not sure what to do with it. It's a good heavy chunk of steel though. But got it all cleaned up. There's a little bit of wood left along the edge, but we'll take care of that later. Box is all unbolted. And then I've got these straps in here to keep it square. You know, without the floor in there, there's nothing keeping the floor square. So I'm gonna get the cherry picker on here, get some straps rigged up on there fancy like, and then we'll get this box lifted off, start scraping up the frame, get it on jack stands, that sort of thing. And then we'll get that old axle and the leaf springs out of there and get the air hammer out and start hammering off some rivets again. I'm sick of hammering off rivets on here. So this should be the end of that, and then we can really make some progress here. All right, I added a couple of more ratchet straps, attached it to the cherry picker here. Let's see if we can't pick it up without it destroying itself. Looks like we're a little off center side to side. See if we can't center that up. Let's try that. That's not so bad. My cherry picker has sprung a leak. Might be time for an upgrade pretty quick here. Got to go up high enough to get it over the tires. It's that simple. I'm just gonna set it down over here out of the way for now. I'm sure that I'll have to put it on and off and on and off to make sure we got everything going in the right places. The cherry picker must be getting a little wore out. That puddle right there is just from lifting it up, and that's the biggest puddle it's ever left, so might be running out of time on that ram. But now we can get access to a lot more of it. We've got to knock spring hangers off here. This cross member is bent and it has a rust hole in it. We got to get bump stop mounts off, front mounts off, which I think takes the rivets off of most of this cross member. And that one might actually need to move forward an inch or two. We've got an exhaust hanger bracket and then the brake line bracket over there. Pull the bumper off, and we got this super custom trailer hitch here. Got to knock that off too. So I'm gonna get this up on jack stands, and we'll start scraping down, cleaning it up, and I'll probably bring you back in after that because, you know, nobody wants to watch me scrape a frame. So we'll get at it and we'll get this mocked up. Well, that was a ton of work. I got frame all cleaned up. Got most of it wire brushed. You know, get all that rust scale and dirt and 70 years of grease off it. So this is just a Ford 9-inch housing. This is out of like a 60s F100 or something like that. It's narrower than a newer 9-inch housing, like out of the 70s. But I've got it sitting at, I've got the frame sitting at ride height. Got about a 2-degree rake. It really drops it down in the back, like probably about 3 inches. Got it centered in the frame. Got this, should be centered in the wheel opening now. And then this is the kit that I got for the triangulated 4-link. This is kind of how it's going to be. These are the lower ones, and then the diagonal ones are the uppers. And they'll go right to, the pumpkin will be there, and this will be the frame side. So it's got a bunch of universal brackets and whatnot, so probably going to have to modify those to fit. So I think I'm going to work on getting one of the lowers mocked up, you know, just tacked into place. We'll see how that goes. Then I'm going to have to recheck the pinion angle. Not that I have a pinion, but the front of the housing here, right here, that's going to run parallel with the pinion. So that's the same angle there. I do have another axle with the third member in it. I've got a posi center section. To go in that, it's a bunch of messing around, but I have all the pieces. The only thing I'll have to get is axle shafts to have the correct bolt pattern to match the front. Because right now it's got like a 5 on 5.5, the big Ford pattern. And our front has a 5 on 4 3/4, which is a small GM pattern. So I'm going to work on getting this lower control arm, radius arm, link bar, whatever we want to call it. Work on getting that mocked up, recheck all my angles, and then bring you back in and show you where we're at. Whoa, 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 pump the brakes. You've made it this far in the video. Have you subscribed? If not, hit that subscribe button, follow along with this truck build, and many more to come. Things are not going according to plan, but I have a solution. Let me show you what's going on here. I started mocking up the triangulated 4-link. Got the lower link bar there. Got the bracket tacked on. Lower bracket on the axle tacked on. And then I started putting the upper link in. And what really throws me off is that on the 9-inch, the pumpkin is not centered on most of the factory housings. And then even more so, the pinion is offset in the third member. So that kind of throws everything off. So if you look here, I've got a mark right there. That's the center line with it sitting in the frame. So that really throws off all the mounts here. The bigger problem is, this is the bed cross member that goes right there. I've only got about 3/4 of an inch above that link. Even less actually once you put the mounts on the pumpkin side. It's just not enough room. Not enough room. I'm also trying to leave room for exhaust to come out both sides because I want the exhaust to go all the way out the back. And it's just it's just not working. It's just not working. So I think I've come up with a solution. Now, the important part that I was trying to avoid was, with the triangulated 4-link, was I wouldn't have to have a panhard bar then. Unfortunately, that's just not going to work. So I'm going to have to figure out something for a panhard bar. I got to order something or whatever. But we're just going to go with a pretty traditional parallel 4-link. Something like this. Now, I did have to modify some of the other brackets to work here. It's just tacked in there, so that's kind of what I came up with. And then we've got that there. Now, with the parallel 4-link, you know, if they're running perfectly parallel, you've got to worry about what's called anti-squat. And if they're perfectly parallel and you go to accelerate, the front end is going to squat down. As far as spread, you want about 25% of your tire diameter from the top link to the bottom link. And figure if we run a 29 or a 30-inch tire, I've got about 7.5 inches of spread there. And I've got about 6 1/4 up there. And what that does is that gives us a little bit of anti-squat for the acceleration. Now, I'm still waiting for my coilovers, you know, good old internet. They haven't shown up yet. They said delay, whatever. I just got a notification I should have them Friday again. So we'll see if that actually happens. So I think what I'm going to do now, because like I said, I don't have all the parts now, and now I've got to get a panhard bar, and I should probably order a fuel tank, because that's going to be taken out of the cab and go between the frame rails in the back. So now I've got to worry about the panhard bar getting into the fuel tank, and probably going to have to move the cross member that's there, move that back. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get the other side mocked up into the parallel 4-link, and then we'll see what it looks like. And then once the shocks come in and the panhard bar comes in and the fuel tank, you know, then, which should be next week if I can get it in time. You know, then next week you can mock up the shocks, suspension, get this thing sitting back down on wheels, hopefully. You know, if I've got enough time to get axle shafts in there. You know, I'm going to put the factory axles back in here, so I don't have to spend all the money on the modified axle shafts with the correct bolt pattern. I've got wheels that'll bolt on to the big Ford 5 lug, so we're going to use that for now, just for rolling around. And then when we get closer to more like reassembly, then we'll get the posi unit in there, we'll get the new axle shafts in there, new seals and all that, and paint. I hate painting, but paint. So I think I'm probably throwing a lot at you right now, so I'm going to get the other side mocked up, cut up, tacked in place, and then we'll check out what it looks like. But the benefit of not going to triangulated 4-link is we'll have far more room for the exhaust to get over the axle. The only thing we've got to miss now is the panhard bar, and it really shouldn't be that difficult to miss that with the exhaust. I don't know if we're going to 2.5 or 3-inch or whatever, probably like 2.5 duals. And then the fuel tank will be right behind that, and hopefully everything's not too close. So I'll get this mocked up and then we'll check it out. Got it all mocked up now. Both sides are tacked in place good. Let's check this out. So I don't know, I guess I'm pretty happy with it. I wish I would have just got the parallel 4-link kit.
Probably would have saved a handful of hours of time, because I just sat there staring at it for a while. You know, sometimes you got to do that. But I think that's pretty good. Our pinion angle is, you know, still in the right spot. So one other nice thing that that I was able to work back in, and the upper link mounts for the triangulated 4-link got in the way of this cross member here. So those link mounts, they came way back into here, and I would have had to move this cross member up about 4 or 5 inches. So now that can go back in its factory location, and it's right between both 4-link mounts. So that'll really give some strength back into it. And then I took a cross member out here. We'll have to put that back in so we don't get any twist in the rails, because the coilovers are going to go on the outside between the tire and the frame rail. So with it bouncing down the road, the frame rails start to twist if you don't put a cross member back in there. So, you know, with having to put that cross member, now I've got to fit, you know, a bunch of things in a real tight spot. We got fuel tank, cross member, panhard bar, and 2 2.5-inch exhaust pipes. It's going to be close. I think we'll get it though. I think there's plenty of room, just enough room, I should say, for everything to fit in there nicely. So I think what I'm going to do now that I've got everything cleaned up, everything's still just tacked in, so I still got a bunch of jack stands under here. I'm going to see if I can't wheel that bed back over here and fit the cherry picker in there around all the jack stands, get the bed back on. We'll see what the ride height actually looks at, because right now the frame is at ride height on the jack stands. So this is where I want it to land once we have weight on the coilovers. So let me get that wheeled back over here, fiddle around with it, and we'll see what it looks like. Well, box is on, and I think it's sitting pretty good. I did drop the rear jack stands down 1/2 inch, 1 notch. I think that's 1/2 inch is what it measures out to. And I think that's where we need to have it. I've still got 3.5 inches between the top of the axle and the bottom of the frame. That's more than enough. The shocks only have 4 inches of travel, so it's never going to touch. So let's take a look here, and I'll let you guys make the decision. You know, it's got a little bit more wheel tuck in the back, but that's fine. If you look at the wheel arches, the rear ones are lower than the front, so you should be able to see a little bit more front tire, and that's exactly what I was going for. So, you know, everything fits, you know, inside the box sides, you know, real nice. All the cross members are going to clear everything. You know, nice centered in the wheel opening. You know, the link arms, they do have adjustability. The one main reason why I bought this particular kit, which a lot of them don't have, is the rod ends are adjustable on both ends with right and left hand thread. So you can just turn the bar and it'll get longer or shorter, whatever. There's a lot of them out there that have right hand threads on both ends. There's no point in having threads on both ends if they're both right hand thread. So there's a lot of kits out there that have a welded end and then a threaded end. Now you got to take the bar off every time to adjust it. That's overhandling is what that is. So through both threaded ends makes it really easy to adjust, makes it easy to fine adjust, because, you know, if you've only got one threaded end, you've got to go a full 180 degrees. What if you only need 90 degrees? You're kind of SOL on that one. But I think this is where we're going to end the video. I'm out of parts anyway, so make sure you subscribe, follow along. You know, I know you guys want to see this thing back on the road just as much as I do. You know, it's a pretty slick truck, so I'm anxious to see what it's going to be like, what it's going to ride like with all the new suspension. I've never driven one before, but I can only imagine what 4 corners of leaf springs on there does. I mean, I know what an old Ford truck feels like with 4 corner leaf springs. That's a lumber wagon. But I think that's where we're going to call it. So thanks for watching.